Thank you, Susan and Teresa. In 2020, after 5 years of working with an informal advisory group of persons diagnosed, AFTD's Board of Directors chartered the Persons with FTD Advisory Council. This important group shares their lived experience with FTD to inform AFTD's work and advise our staff. It's been my privilege to work with this dedicated group of volunteers for many years. The council currently has 7 members and is co-chaired by Teresa Webb and Bob Meddaugh, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it to this year. In this session, members of the council will share with you some of the things they have learned and the ways their lives have changed after being diagnosed with FTD. In addition to both co-chairs, you will hear from council members Ann Fargusson, Jennifer Lee, Cindy Odell, Steve Perlis, and Amy Shives. And each one of them has more biographical information in the program. And with that, present the council.
Hello, I have learned through my journey with FTD that for me, the best thing for my well-being is to continue to develop myself, to use my life to help people or situations the best I can to achieve a good outcome. Masa Hyde said, "The barn's burnt down, now I see the moon." So I begin my journey with FTD, learning and growing as I can. Dorothy Parker famously said, "What fresh hell is this?" Very fortunately for me in my situation, I took a volunteer position at our local hospital in their adult day center, a day center for fragile adults, caregiving at its best. Wonderful model to learn from. I signed up for this. Of course, I realize you people here today with loved ones did not choose to sign up for your journey. What I have learned in my journey as a person with FTD and an FTD educator has allowed me to continue developing as a person. I experienced an environment with a wealth of information. I hope I can pass on a few points I learned today. What I did was, I learned about caregiving from the inside out. What I was able to do was to observe all of the people at the center as I worked alongside of everyone, the clients and the caregivers. I did this as a person who needs to be cared for. I hope to share a few of my insights today from my vantage point, from a person with FTD. I wish to speak here today for the people living with this disease who no longer can. As time allows, here are some thoughts I may have, of us who are living with this disease would like to know. Robin Williams said, "I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone. We feel alone." Often stated, but always bears repeating, the person with dementia is not giving you a hard time. The person with dementia is having a hard time. Good to use in your daily life. We do not wish to be labeled as sufferers. We are people who have this disease. We are not the disease. Assume we are scared. Nothing makes sense to us a lot of the time. Approach us with this thought and offer reassurance. You will help us more than you know. Harper Lee said, "People generally see what they look for and hear what they listen for. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Many of us feel abandoned most of the time, abandoned by our old lives, friends, health, a future plan to look forward to. Many of us have no family or friends left in our lives. What if everyone in your life was paid to be there?" I think compassion is the key for everyone. Compassion for ourselves as caregivers, compassion for ourselves living with the disease, and for each other. To sum up, I share with you a famous quote of Maya Angelou. "When we know better, we do better. Everyone here is doing better just because you are here with us today." Thank you for listening to my message.
Amy, I hear what you're saying. And because of that, when I look at the word caregiving, care is the central word to give to somebody else who you need to care for. You generally care about that other person. I grew up in a caregiving role with my mother who was ill, and I was in and out of hospitals. Once home, me sitting on the living room floor sofa on her wants and needs and unable to play with my friends, but I cared very little. When my children were born, I gave and I cared, and when I became ill with FTD, they were teenagers. I still performed some activities of daily living, but a strange lack of feeling came over me. My son was in a car accident, and all I wanted to know if he was going to come home for dinner. I gave, but FTD stole my care away. And now I give to my aging mother with her physical and psychological problems, along with vascular dementia. Two dementias don't make a right. I give, but I don't care much. And sometimes the stress is unbearable. When what I require to cope with this disease and what she requires doesn't match, but I press on anyway. Then I ask myself, do I care very well for myself? It's difficult with all this apathy. I hope the person who gives to me will care. Currently, that's my husband. Caregiving does look and is experienced different on this side of the FTD fence.
Thank you, Anne, for mentioning spouses. Let me tell you about mine. FTD is a thief. It has stolen so many things: reading, traveling, my career, and a lot of independence. It also chased away most friends and family. Unlike others, I recognized my symptoms sooner than most do. Short story, it runs in my family. I was a caregiver for my grandmother, my mom, and my aunt. I even helped care for my aunt after my own diagnosis. FTD helped me to better understand what she needed. While my own FTD continued to worsen, I managed with help from my husband. Then we were hit by a double whammy when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It was just the two of us, but I was downright determined to keep him at home for as long as I possibly could. Did I do a perfect job? Was it easy? No. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Many insisted I could not do it, but fortunately, our family doctor knew us well. She believed I could. She realized that my FTD brain might just work as a huge advantage because I had already learned to compensate for many abilities I no longer had. With her working with us, I was able to keep him home, comfortable, and as happy as possible. We still had fun and we laughed a lot. I will admit, though, that there were some days that all I could do was sleep and provide him with the basic necessities. Still, he received better care from me than he would have from anyone who didn't love him or in any nursing home. It was not easy. I did not realize others would take advantage of me. Someone convinced me to give her my car. Others easily convinced me to loan them large sums of money. But I did it. I would do it again, despite the physical toll and the knowledge that others took advantage of my circumstances. Yes, FTD stole a lot from me, even my artistic talents. I do miss those, but now there are other things that I can do simply because my brain doesn't tell me that I can't. Knowing what I have done, can you just imagine what others can with FTD can do when given a chance with support and not criticism?
Cindy, thank you for pointing out that a support central system is essential. Caregiving has always come very naturally to me. It's my love language. From my first memory as a little girl was seeing my little brother for the first time, and I knew that I would love him unconditionally, make sure he had what he needed, and always try to be there to show him the way. From the time I was 6 years old, I was put in charge of taking care of other family members who could not take care of themselves. As I grew up to become an educator, through my 17-year career, I taught thousands of students. I'm very thankful that through my teaching, hopefully they moved on just a little bit better off than when they met me. My husband Chris and I have a real life Brady Bunch, 3 boys and 3 girls, but we just can't seem to find Alice the housekeeper anywhere. We have 3 teenagers still living at home. When I was diagnosed with FTD, we all had to relearn how to live. The challenges that come with FTD are many, and each day is a challenge. I strive to give the best care I can for my children at home, for my young adult children in their own homes, and for my husband. We have learned many life hacks to help me still participate in their school events, how to put all the ingredients out on the counter for cooking, and how to always carry earplugs. But it's a hard transition to make from being the caregiver to being the one cared for. I'm so grateful to my husband and my children and my parents and the care they give me, even though sometimes it takes me a while to wrap my head around being the one cared for. I've always been hard on myself, and the days when I can't process all of it, all the changes, and it seems very overwhelming, I just have to stop in the moment and take a break. The transition to learning self-forgiveness has been very humbling, and I've learned I can no longer be super mom. I have to be fluid and remember that change is inevitable, no matter who you are. Allowing myself some grace since my diagnosis has also helped me remember that each and every day is a new day, and every morning I need to wake up with hope.
That's very, very good information. A few weeks after I was diagnosed with behavior variant frontal temporal dementia, my wife was diagnosed with a rare disease that only women get, called lymphangioliomyomatosis, LAM for short. But like FTD, it is untreatable, progressive, and fatal. In the early years, caregiving alternated back and forth between my wife and I, depending on our various conditions. But as our diseases progressed, Kathy got worse, and caregiving rested entirely on me. She had to ask for assistance in everything, adjusting her pillows, eating, drinking, finding the TV remote. Well, Kathy was unable to do for herself. She was still able to continue being the caregiver to me by reminding me of the things that needed to be done. She was still the brains and I was the brawn in our relationship. My declining executive functioning made finishing any task nearly impossible and daunting. But Kathy would call or text me on the things that needed to be done or what I needed to get. During this time for me, caregiving felt like I was in a constant whirlwind of tasks. Trying to complete a task of mine as well as hers felt like an impossible nightmare. Then 16 years of caregiving as I had known it all changed on February 21st, 2021. That's the day my wife of 50 years died unexpectedly in my arms in the hospital. And the 16 years we'd cared for each other, now I was left to care for myself. It's been 14 months and I'm attempting to take care of myself. I still have a home health aide and a bath aide that I've had for about 6 years. But my 2 grown children call me daily, make sure I'm eating, paying the bills, going to my doctor's visits, taking my medication, and they've come out several times to help me with tasks around the house. I still try to stay active mentally and physically and socially. I ride my three-wheeled recumbent tricycle year-round for shopping and attending activities such as attending AFTD's support group here in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm also the chair of the City of Des Moines Handicapped Access Board, and I'm active in lots of other community groups. But caregiving is a frustrating task, regardless of which side of this you're on. As my AFTD progresses, it becomes more difficult. But for the person that has FTD and for the caregiver, they need to remember that these problems are caused by the disease, not the person.
Thank you for describing what both looks like and feels like having and being a caregiver. I am Steve Perlis, and I am a member of the AFTD Advisory Council. There are 5 qualities that I look for in a caregiver. They are empathy, common sense, honesty, tact, and patience. I have 3 caregivers, one at home with me, one hired caregiver on Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the other hired caregiver 6 days of the week, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I have the 2 hired caregivers thanks to a long-term care insurance policy, which I purchased around 15 years ago when I still was self-employed. An example of common sense is when my caregivers assist me with technology and fix-it jobs in the house and elsewhere. An example of empathy is when my at-home caregiver advocates for me going to the gym on mostly a daily basis. An example of honesty is when my caregiver did not charge me for family caregiver days at my gym because he is working on another project while being there. An example of patience is when my hired caregiver directs me gently toward a more appropriate response when I become manic or start obsessing by writing things down so I won't forget them. An example of patience is when a hired caregiver listens and keeps his cool, no matter how bizarre my discussions of my daily activities are. An example of tact is when a hired caregiver carefully avoids saying or doing anything that might upset or anger me. Basically, I feel elated that my decision to purchase long-term care insurance has now provided me and my wife with caregivers to meet my needs connected with my daily activities. To sum it up, I am ecstatic that I can have my presentation viewed by others, and I feel hopeful that this will benefit some of the persons who have viewed my presentation. I am fortunate that I had the foresight to purchase long-term care insurance before the onset of my frontotemporal dementia. Many of us did not have that opportunity.
Thanks, Steve, for sharing those thoughts with us. Caregiving, no matter what form, has its limitations for the person diagnosed. The usual routines are disrupted and schedules are almost non-existent. Lists to dos are extensive and are never finished. Yet it does not stop us from giving care. As an RN for many years, giving care came naturally, easily, always without thoughts of, will I forget what comes next? Yes, in hindsight, those were the easy years. While I do not have children at home or elder parents, I still give care. For example, my daughter had surgery and was in need of care. I said to myself, I'm an RN, I know how to give care, especially to my own daughter. But it was when my daughter said to me, Mom, just tell me what to do and I will follow it. follow you. That I faced self-fear, uncertainty, and anxiety. For many of us diagnosed, giving care can be frightening at times, especially when we realize we no longer remember the how-tos or what-ifs. All confidence melts and molds of uncertainty sets in. Am I making her comfortable? Why can't I remember what to do next? Fear seeps through the crevices and swells into anxiety. Did I remember to change the dressing? Where did I put her medication? What do you mean I only have 10 minutes to get ready? Anxiety, like fear, becomes a monster that we just cannot slay. It's important for the person giving care to give themselves the grace of forgiveness. Apathy is something every person diagnosed shares. Mixing apathy and giving care can create a vortex of shame. The shame of knowing what to do but being held hostage by apathy. Please understand, it is not because we are lazy. We simply cannot do it. Caregiving, no matter who is giving the care, should be given with compassion, honesty, humility, and above all, allowing themselves mercy when the caregiving goes sideways. As you have heard from my tribe, the Advisory Council, FTD is more than 3 letters. FTD is thievery at its very best. It robs us of our personalities, of our words, who we are, what we aspire for. FTD robs not only the person diagnosed, but from their inner circle to the outer bands of the community. And finally, FTD is like a dragon. It breathes fire into everyone's life, and it knows no race, religion, gender, or socioeconomics. Thank you.
Thank you guys all for sharing like that. I must have seen that video like 4 or 5 times, and it really, I think, hit strongest today. So I really do appreciate how much honesty and courage you guys showed in sharing your experiences like that. So we have a couple minutes for some questions. So I was hoping to talk a little bit about how you guys created that video. And first of all, how did you come up with that subject?
Well, we were kicking it one day trying to decide what we were going to do. We wanted to raise the bar, and Anne said, she was having a day, and she asked, am I the only one that's diagnosed and I'm a caregiver? Am I the only one? And it just rang a bell. It's like, no. And we each said no. But our caregiving experiences were going to be different. But it started with Anne asking one question, and that's how we picked the subject.
It is funny because, like Sharon was talking last night about the ripple effect, when one person can make such a difference. And when I was first diagnosed, the 2 ladies to each of my sides were the 2 people that gave me guidance, because you don't know where to go. And the AFTD was where I found the most safety and the most information. And when you're first diagnosed, you're lost.
Well, your hair's on fire and you run in circles, you act like a loon.
Right.
You don't know where to go, what to do, and God help me with if I can't.
Right.
But you know what's really fantastic is this council, because we're family.
Yes.
And we work well together. Mm-hmm. We work hard. The film went by in 20 minutes, and I think, Anne, you can say something about how hard that was.
Oh yeah, it was hard, mostly for me, because I say it like in 1 minute and I have to spread it out. Okay, most of the other people are like, wait, you got to shorten it, okay? And I'm like, wait, okay, I got to make it longer, whatever. But yeah, we just practiced it. We figured out who was caregiving for who, whether it was a spouse, a parent, a child, or maybe even somebody that had a parent that had it that was taking care of them as a child. And so because of that, that's why we picked it, and we picked the certain people to talk about that.
And Cindy,
And then we
you were-
practiced it.
Well, Cindy was really good with your piece, and you showed not only what it was like. I think what I found very profound was when you said, did you do it perfect, and was it perfect all the time? And you said, no, it wasn't. And it's just raw, and it's real. And I want to thank Matt, because I know we've been like feral cats. It's been kind of hard to herd us, with the group. And but I do want to thank you for, putting up with us and we getting it right and doing it.
And I want to thank you guys for allowing me to do that with you. It's a real privilege actually to be able to see the lived experience of this disease in action in a lot of ways, especially when it's focused on such an important purpose that the council has to make sure that AFTD really does stay true to what the people who are living this disease are going through and what their needs are. So I appreciate all your struggles, and I know it was probably not easy to put that 20-minute piece together. I can only imagine what the conversations were like as you were doing it. And Ann, I must say, you are a master of the single sentence answer, and you can pack a lot into a single sentence. So.
Yeah. And I'm sorry that we're missing some of our group here,
Yeah.
that were on the screen for health reasons or whatever. Even Bob at the last minute had a health problem and he wasn't able to make it, so.
Yeah, and if you're watching, Bob, hello.
Bob,
Sorry you're not here with us, and same with Amy and Steve.
Amy and Steve also, yeah.
Amy.
But the thing about this disease is you can tell it affects everybody in so many different ways and so many different walks of life. And that is what the shared journey is.
Yes.
Those 4-letter words. AFTD. Find help, hope. And you find it with one another. And each of us have developed such a deep love for one another in this community. It's something that most of us would not be able to get by without. Because you have hardly anything left.
People ask me, how did you take care of your husband when you supposedly have dementia too? Supposedly, half people don't believe you. I didn't realize, I just did it. I just did what I needed to do. I just loved him the way I had to. And that helped me care for him. And I didn't even realize how difficult it was until he passed away. And then I crashed for about 3 months. It was like, how in the world did I do that? But just like anybody, even without FTD, we respond to the needs. And that's what happened. We do that too.
Right, Cindy.
Well, thank you guys again for sharing your experiences and your struggles with us. And I look forward to continue working with you and the council. I think there's a lot we can do.
Be careful what you wish for.
All right.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.